counting gods, how you're counting persons, how you're counting humans, how you're counting animals. That's what I'm asking. Is there a consistent formula by which, or conditions by which, you are counting these entities that you can actually make it universally applicable?
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of talking past each other. So when you're saying it's consistent, are you saying that it doesn't violate
Man, dude, I can explain to you how I count things.
Yeah, but I'm asking clarification about what you're saying.
And it will be universally applicable, and it won't be ad hoc in the way that you seem to be presenting it.
Look,
I'm asking you if your counting method maps onto created things.
I'm saying it does within a metaphysical system, yes. And that's what I'm asking.
I'm asking you to give a formal account of that.
Oh, you want me to give a formal account of that? Yeah, the formal account I could just give relative identity. If that's what you're asking for, but a logical notion of identity, then relative identity is going to be it. And sortal nouns, sortal is going to be a countable noun by which is used to count a specific thing in question, which the item falls under.
Okay, good. So now we're getting somewhere. So it is about sortals and how we count them. So now,
not necessarily.
Let's go back to it is. It is.
Because not everyone views identity in the same manner. So when you're speaking about identity, right?
Bro, we're not talking about my theory of identity or my theory of counting or Danny's or anybody else. We're dealing with yours and only yours, and I'm checking to see what you believe and whether or not you actually have a consistent counting method across the board.
Yeah, and I really...
when you keep saying, oh, well, yeah, but different people have different notions of identity, that's beside the point. It has nothing to do with what my line of questioning is getting at.
Yeah, and under like a metaphysical notion, it's going to be that when it comes to like an entity being identical, right, it's going to be identical to the essence or being in which it is in reality, in that respect. So if we're counting like one entity or one being, right, then we're counting that entity and being. But in respect to relative identity, your sortals are going to be used to count like items, basically.
Okay, good. So sortals are going to be used to count. So what is the formal application of that when it comes to God versus human beings? That's what I want an explanation of.
Well, the application between God and humans is going to be diverse, since when we look at like relative identity in itself, right, it admits to different identity relations. For us, there's going to be different conditions for the identity to be met. So when we're speaking about
exactly. So what are the conditions? What are the conditions?
It's going to be relative to
God exactly. But what are the conditions in order to count as the same sort of God versus what are the conditions to count as the same sort of human?
Yeah, so when we count, I'm telling you, there isn't going to be the same conditions. Like what? Like that's not what relative identity is.
I didn't. Are you listening, bro?
Did you not ask me
if they're going to be the same conditions? I didn't ask if they're going to be the same conditions. I asked what the conditions are, which is open-ended.
Yeah, I can't hear you when you're moving away.
Whether or not they're...
Yeah, I can't hear you when you're like moving back and forth from the mic. So can you calm a bit closer so I can hear you?
I'm not moving back and forth from the mic. I have a Bluetooth on, which is connected to my ear, and there's no movement whatsoever.
Yeah, okay, so the condition... Okay, so you're asking me what's the conditions for like for example, for two items to be the same human, and then for two items to be the same God?
Yes.
Okay, so under, like, let's say, for example, God, we could say that the conditions for, like, these two items to be God would be that, like, both of these two items would have to share all of the predicates relative to the sort of God. And we could say that the predicates here are going to be, like, omni-properties, right? Which constitute...
Good. Thank you, sir. Now you're starting to get where we're going. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. And these omni-properties is going to be essential since it constitutes some X to be God. Whereas when it comes to, for example, humans, right? Like when we say like two items are the same human, right? Under some like sortal concept, right? We can say like the predicates here are going to be like what rationality and animality. So if these two items satisfy these conditions when they are humans under the specific category which is mentioned.
What makes them the same humans?
What makes them the same human?
You gave conditions for them being human. What are the conditions for them to be the same human?
The condition. What makes them human? What's the conditions for them to like? What do you mean by? Okay, so how?
Okay, let me
So
break
what do you
it
mean by
down.
same
Because
human?
this is, I don't think you were ready for this part of the
What do
conversation.
you mean
To be
by
very
same
honest
human?
with you, what do I mean by the same human?
Yeah, what do you
Listen,
mean by
buddy,
that?
that's exactly what I'm asking you. What do you mean by same human? What are the
I already told you what I
conditions
meant,
of
so
such?
were you not
No,
listening?
you didn't. No, you didn't.
Yes, I
Because
said
you
they're going to be the
explained-
same human.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, okay.
What you explained,
Yes.
what you explained was you gave conditions for them being human in general. You did not give the conditions for them to count as the same human in the same way that you just did with God. So try again.
Oh my goodness. I said to you that those conditions in which we provide for an item to be human, right, are going to be the same conditions by which we identify by these two items are the same human. So when I'm saying, like, for example, Jake is the same human as G1, right, what does this mean? Right, it means that we have all of the predicates relative to the sort of concept by which constitute us to be human,
What are
by which
those
we're identical
predicates?
under.
What are those predicates? That's the whole point.
I already
You gave, for
specified the
example,
predicates.
No, you did not.
Yes,
you
I did.
specified the
Rationality and analysis.
predicates. You specified, hold on a second. You specified the predicates for them to be the same God, and what it came down to after all this wasting of time is that they possess the same omni properties, correct?
Of course, like them. No, I said
Okay.
for them to be count. I said for them to be counted the same. Look, okay, for them to be
For them to
counted
be
the same
counted
God.
as the same God, all of the omni predicates and properties, they must possess all of them, correct?
Okay, now I'm seeing. Okay, now I'm seeing the confusion. When we're talking about the conditions for God and the conditions for human, right? Right. The reason why we can count multiple humans is because the sort which is used, which has been used, imports discernibility. Whereas when we use the sort of God, it doesn't import discernibility. So we can't count multiple gods. Right.
So again, I'm trying to simplify this. You're doing a lot of talking without actually answering my question. You very easily answered the question of what the conditions are in order to count as the same God, which was that all of the predicates or properties, the omni predicates or properties, are possessed by all of the individuals, and that makes them count as the same God. Now, I'm asking you if we're evaluating whether or not two human beings really are one human being or count as such, what are the conditions? You need to give me a metaphysical explanation in the same way that you attempted to do with God when it comes to the omni properties.
So a metaphysical.
What
Okay,
predicates or
cool.
properties?
You were saying.
Hold on a second. What predicates or properties must the two human beings to satisfy that they are the same human or count as the same human? Now, don't start going on about identity, this and this. Just give me a simple answer to that question.
Okay, so when we're talking about like an individual human and we're using relative identity, right, we're going to use, like, for example, we could use like accidents to be what's specified for the individual to be that individual. Or we can say person, right? We could say that Jake is the same person as Jake. And person here is going to denote the individual being human. And since person dominates human, and if you're the same person, then you're the same being.
So person dominates human when it comes to human beings. But
No. That's
hold
not
on a
what
second.
Okay, that's not what I'm saying, but okay, go ahead.
That's not what you just said? You didn't just say
I
that
said
person dominates human?
I said person dominates being. I said that person in this context, right, and when we're using the tool, right, is going to imply human being.
You said person dominates human being in this context.
I didn't hear you say human being. I heard you say human. Bro, can you come closer? Like, you're laughing, but I can't hear you when you're going back and forth, bro.
Well, I don't know why you can't hear me.
We're all.
Other people having a problem?
Because your
We
mic.
hear you clearly.
Because
Hold on. G1, focus, please. I know you keep saying that you're not hearing him. We all just heard him laugh. We're hearing him.
Yeah, I can't. No one's saying I can't hear him. The point is, what he's saying isn't clear. That's my point. So when he's speaking to
What
me,
do you mean? There's a problem
Okay,
with
let
the
me ask
mic?
Danny.
The point is, you're not asking.
G1, one second.
The point is, I'm saying you're not
Hold on,
clear.
G1,
Like, I
one
can't
second.
hear
You made a point. You're saying he's not being clear. Danny, do you understand what Jake's saying?
I mean, I can hear, but sometimes he sounds a little bit away from the mic.
Exactly. Like what? Like you acting like I'm making this up. Like what the heck? Like
Nobody's acting like you're making it up. At least I'm not.
you said he wasn't.
I asked.
Danny legit supported what I said.
I literally asked before. I said, "Can everybody hear me?"
Yeah, before it's not now.
Hold on a second. I'm talking on a Bluetooth. You're saying I'm moving away from the mic. It's impossible for me to do that. So
But
maybe
before-
there's a problem with the Bluetooth, but I am not moving away from my microphone.
Okay, cool. So then it must be a problem with the mic because Danny stated the same thing regarding
Okay,
to
so
you.
hold on a second. I'm gonna take off my Bluetooth. 1 second.
Oh, Jake, that might be the issue with your mod powers too. Might be interfering with that.
Okay, can you hear me now? Is this clearer?
Yeah, you're much clearer, bro.
Okay,
So
I'll test out your theory though. Speaking Muslim, 1 second. No, it's still the same on the mod thing. Anyway, so go ahead.
Yeah, can you reinstate what you're trying to ask me so we can reset the conversation?
Yeah. So I was trying to ask, what are the conditions for counting gods or to be the same God? You gave them. I'm satisfied with your explanation of what you just said. Now I'm trying to get down to how you do the same thing when it comes to human beings or being the same human being. I don't know how to make this any clearer.
Cool. Okay, cool. So when we're counting, I told you the conditions are going to be different, right? Because when we count there to be like one God, right, using relative identity, right, it's going to be relative to the total by which the individual, like references, predicates by which, like, imports some discernibility, right, in which we can't really count multiple gods in this respect. Whereas when it comes to humans, right, when we're saying like this human is this human relative to some sort of F, the sort of F which is going to be used imports discernibility, since there's going to be accidents such that, right, it can constitute or in fact be the evidence of the individual's individuation from the other individual.
Danny, do you think he answered my question, or is it just me?
I didn't really understand what you're saying.
With Danny, in fact, look, Danny,
Because
what
you're
he's
not
trying to say
answering the question, bro.
Yeah.
Because you're literally not answering.
Danny, what is he trying to say to me? Maybe you'll be more clever now.
Well, I guess the background of the question is that just saying, oh, relative identity fixes the problem, right, is not enough. The point is that there are going to be conditions. We have criteria for, okay, X and Y are the same human, the same God, the same cow, right? So if someone were to say Danny and G1 are the same human, right? So you count one human, right? Well, there are certain distinctions that seem to show that that's false, like you and I have different minds, for example, or whatever, right? So then we have criteria in mind by which, okay, G1 and Danny are not the same human, or they are, right? Now he's just asking, what are those kind of criteria by which you count Jesus and the Father as being the same God rather than different gods? Is that's what you're asking, Jake, right?
Yeah, and I did provide the condition.
Hold on a second. He gave that, or he tried to give that, and as I said, I'm satisfied insofar as moving the conversation forward. He gave the conditions for that when it comes to being the same God, but he did not give the conditions for that in terms of being the same human. He did not.
The conditions being the same.
Like an example, G1, if Jake were to ask me, I'd be like, oh, well, to be the same human, you'd have to have the same mind, same body, et cetera, right? Like that would be an example.
Yeah, I know. But the point is, I did say that when it comes to, like, for example, like G1 being the same person, right? So there's going to be a relation to myself, but it's going to be relative to the concept. I did say person.
But he's asking about human being.
Yeah, human being can correspond to like the person's intentional states.
listen,
It can correspond to the
have an
person's
answer.
personality.
Hold on a second.
I said it's going to be. You can use any condition. What do you mean? I don't have an answer. I'm giving you.
No, there you go. You're getting to the
anything.
point. Hold on a second. You're getting to the point. You just said you can use any condition. Is that what you really want to say?
You can use any condition if it's sufficient for us to understand that these two items is such a thing. That's the point.
Exactly. And I'm asking you what those conditions are. And
I
it's
just told you
obvious
the
that
condition.
No. It's obvious that
Any
you
condition
don't know.
is sufficient.
It's obvious.
It doesn't mean I don't know. The point is relative identity.
Any condition is sufficient.
Any like if an individual was to say that when we say like G1, right, it's the same person as G1, and they take person here to denote like some intentional state or personality to be what constitutes that individual to be counted as one, then that's fine.
But I'm asking you for what that actually is.
What do you mean you're asking for what that actually is? So you're asking for the metaphysical explanation of what that actually is?
I'm asking for the content. I don't know
Yeah,
how to
the
say this
metaphysical
any clearer.
explanation, right?
I'm asking
So
for
the
the
metaphysical
content.
explanation.
Just as you can tell me, Jake, what makes a father and son, basically what this comes down to is the father and son are the same God because they possess the same omni-properties. That's
So-
basically what your whole explanation is reduced to. And I'm
So-
asking, what would make, if we were questioning whether Jake and Danny are the same human, or Jake Brancatella and the Muslim metaphysician, which are two names that refer to what I believe is one human. So how would we analyze that? How would we determine whether or not Jake and the Muslim metaphysician count as one human versus Danny and Jake counting as one human? What are the conditions by which we can evaluate those two questions?
Okay, so you're asking me for a metaphysical explanation. So that's what it means when you say content. Okay, cool. So when we're speaking about, for example,
I'm asking for presumably properties in the same way that you gave omni properties for God.
for an explanation,
How
right?
else can
No,
it be
okay,
any
I'm
simpler?
confused. Wait, let's wait. So Jake, do you believe that there's a formal problem when it comes to the Trinity when we use RI? Like, do you think it still consists?
Bro, we're still spinning around in circles here.
Yeah,
I've
no,
been
no,
asking
no,
the
but
same
Jake,
question.
Jake,
I've
Jake,
been
the
asking you the
LPT
same question for the past 20 minutes.
Yeah, but the point is, look, Jake, the point is, do you think that when it comes to
The point is,
relative
I'll tell you
identity,
exactly what the point is. The point is you don't have an answer because you know what's going to happen at the next step. If you actually give an answer to that, I'm going to show how this entire theory falls apart. That's
you're
exactly
being,
what's happening.
no, it's because you're being, look, the point is you're being obscure, right? Because I don't know what you
I'm
mean.
not being
You see,
obscure.
I'm going to explain why. I'm going to explain why, right? Because even Danny would agree with me as well, right? Because when it comes to the LPT, when you read Bro Branson, like you always state, like within your other videos, that the LPT is going to be understood as a formal problem and an implicit problem. And the implicit problem, right, is going to correspond to the metaphysical commitments which the individual provides. So like the semantics or whatever. But then when it comes to the formal problem, right, with relative identity, there isn't one.
But what does this have to do with answering Jake's question?
It's because
You're just
in one
refusing
sense,
to answer it.
it's because Danny,
You want to
it's because I'm
basically
trying to
come down to
understand.
you cannot
because
tell
I'm trying to
me.
understand
You
because we
cannot
Danny, we
tell
hold
me.
on.
You are incapable of telling me what the
Let me
conditions are.
land. No. It's because every time I try to give, look, the point is, right, is because when it comes to this discussion I've had with Danny, and he would say, okay, cool, the problem is going to rely on what it is meant.
Bro, you're
right?
diverting
Meaning-
from the topic.
Yeah.
I'm asking you a
Jake,
simple
do you
question,
One second.
and you're telling me what Danny ate for lunch.
So Jake, okay, so I'm asking you, so you know answer?
With Danny.
Hold on, G1, 1 second, with all due respect, because we've just hit. It's 11:03. I want you guys to try to wrap this up, and we can move on to another person.
I'll give him here. How about this?
I gave him the conditions,
We'll
but then
give
just
him-
asked him
hold
to
on a
explain
second.
how the condition is met.
Hold on, bro. We're gonna let you talk. We'll let you talk and say whatever you have to say for the final couple minutes, and then we're gonna drop you and move on to somebody else. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness. Right. I already gave you the conditions in the way in which we can count one human or multiple humans, right? And in respect to God, right, in the way in which I'm using the sort of God, right, is going to import discernibility in which we can't count multiple gods, right? But then when you're asking me, okay, cool, right, when it comes to like counting one human, what is going to be the condition, right? It's either you're saying that, okay, cool, when we're saying that there's one human under this notion of relative identity, what are we trying to say? Are we saying that G1 is the same person as G1? And person here is going to indicate personality by which we can count one individual, in this case, by which we can say that, let's say, for example, G1 is the same person as G1, but not Danny, right? So we can understand with these statements that G1 and Danny are not going to be the same person because G1 is the person in question.
Jake, if you don't mind, I think I see perhaps what might be the confusion. There's a difference between whether it's coherent to say Danny is the same person or human as G1, right? Because that statement alone is not incoherent, right? But what the problem with it is that the truth conditions for that statement are not obtained, right? Because we have certain conditions that need to be in place in order to make that statement true. And that's essentially, right, it's not whether it's coherent to say by itself with no context that, Jesus is the same God as the Father, right? It's what are the truth conditions such that obtains, right? And that's what we haven't gotten an answer to.
Right.
Yeah, but the truth
has not
conditions-
answered the question.
But I already told you, but the truth conditions is going to be relevant.
I'm sorry, for when we say that A is the same human as B, that's what we haven't gotten an answer to.
So A is the same human as B, and what answer have you not? Like, what's the condition for A and B?
What are the truth conditions?
You haven't given it, bro. We're
Bro,
asking
can I
you
speak
for
to
what
Danny,
the
bro? Because you're not really clear.
No, I am very clear.
Hold on, Danny. So Danny, so when you're saying A is the same human as B, what was you asking pertaining to that statement?
So you
What
gave
are the
truth
conditions
conditions
for them to count
No.
as the same human?
To count as the same. Okay. You using same human within the statement of same human doesn't mean that it's going to be used in the same sense. Like when I'm saying same human,
All right, speaking. Let's
the
move on, bro.
singularity is going to be relative to the concept.
G1, thank you, sir. Only because.
Oh my goodness, bro.
Hold on. With all due respect, we did say you could land your final point. Jake would make a response. We're kind of going back and playing tennis again. So let's just try again next week because we have.
Yeah, but he's being.
The majority of the time.
Yeah, but you understand that, host, but he's being very
Bro, can we
like.
drop the guy, man? Honestly.
He's being,
G1, I'm gonna move on. Okay. Thank you for joining. We'll try again next time.
Yo, speaking Muslim, we're going to have to figure out, me and you are going to have to do a test run live to figure out how I can get mods here because this is
Joe
just,
was telling me that
can't really.
it's a glitch in the.
Annoying, bro.
Are you there?
Yeah, Akhi, Jake, it happens sometimes where your mod doesn't work. It's happening a lot of times. And sometimes